Welcome to the Eris Report. My name is Daniel Fiverson. This is a new series that I'm starting, so please leave me comments, feedback. Let me know if you found this helpful. When Eris Station Direct in 2020, COVID emerged. When Eris Station Direct in 2021, the Capitol riot occurred. This year, we have a very different event, though it is still too early to preclude that we will not have a close encounter of the other kind as well. Come on. As Eris made her annual Station Direct on January 10th, the Space Telescope Science Institute in Baltimore declared that the James Webb Space Telescope unfurled its primary mirror. This guy. Launched into space on Christmas Day, Webb is a joint effort involving NASA, the European Space Agency, and the Canadian Space Agency. This was a major scientific event. NASA calls this one of the most complicated deployments in space ever. The telescope had to be folded tight to make it fit inside the fairing of an Ariane 5 rocket and assembled in orbit, which was deemed unfeasible at the time. Webb is expected to arrive at its insertion location by January 23rd, putting it in place to fire its engines to glide into a parking spot about 930,000 miles away from our planet. If Webb gets to the right zone, it can use a minimum of fuel to stay in place, thanks to a near-perfect alignment with the sun, the Earth, and Moon. According to the science website Gizmodo, the primary mirror at 21 feet wide is now the largest mirror ever sent into space, with a collecting area more than 6 times that of Hubble's mirror. According to NASA, the James Webb Space Telescope is an unprecedented mission that is on the precipice of seeing the light from the first galaxies and discovering the mysteries of our universe. This scientific breakthrough is physical corroboration of the ongoing process of the expansion of human consciousness down here on Earth. Our vision has also increased geometrically as the consequences of the frailties and spiritual imbalances of human experience over centuries and millennia of history come into focus and are exposed. Eris has earned a bad reputation for historic global conflagrations. Analysis reveals that each of those holocausts has dislodged collective malignities so that healing could begin. As this new decade begins to unfold, the opportunities for personal and planetary growth are at a maximum. We're not being asked to take up the challenge. The directives are imperatives that will not be ignored. This is the full chart for Eris Station Direct. And I like to isolate just the planet that's involved in the event itself. When all the lines are in the chart, I think it's too much information. It's even hard to see what's happening to what, because all the lines overlay each other. But I'm going to unpack this and break all this down as we move through this talk. What's interesting in this chart to me is that all of these aspects are to the eastern and to the upper part of the chart. The upper part of the chart is the social sphere. It's our activity, with everybody else, what we believe, what we share, the reality that's outside of our personal realm of awareness. And the eastern horizon is really our personal inner world. So I think that this correlates very well to what's going on, how these outer world events have generated all these direct emotional experiences. Eris is conjunct the moon, which is our emotional body, has generated all these emotional experiences, direct emotional experiences that have created crises, but these crises are propelling us forward. That's unfortunately the way that it works. We need a visceral experience in order to grow. We don't change just because we think about it. We have to actually experience it emotionally before we change. What also is interesting is that there is no aspect to Hygeia. And I just completed my annual forecast. I'm going to refer to it at the end of this talk. It's available on Amazon. But the point is that Hygeia is in aspect over 50 times the major transits over the course of the year, which is a very large percentage of what's going on this year. Hygeia is the daughter of Asclepius, who was the father of modern medicine. She's about proactive healthcare. I don't have to correlate that for you to explain how deeply that is embedded in the time that we are passing through. So you can see Hygeia is not out in left field at all. Hygeia actually is making more aspects than Eris at this time. I'm not going to get into this. Maybe I will do a talk just about Hygeia at some other time. But I just want you to see that just because Eris is not aspecting Hygeia, I don't want you to think that Hygeia is inert in any form, shape, or description. So the moon at the ingress, the moon is at 0 degrees of Taurus. It's actually 0 degrees 29 minutes, but it is 0 degrees, which is the most intense immersion, the most intense expression of the dynamic, whatever the planet, the sign is, the dynamic that the sign that the planet is in. And it's separating from a new phase conjunction to Eris. A new phase conjunction is the beginning of a cycle. With Eris at 23 degrees of Aries, 41 minutes, station direct. This is a new sense of self that's emerging, and a new understanding of who we are as individuals, and a new understanding of who we are as a community, and our local community and our global community. The universe is requiring that we learn how to be more self-reliant. This is Taurus. And more self-empowering. Pluto, there is an aspect of Pluto, I'll refer to it later, but Pluto is right here as part of this chart. More aware of the self, we need to be more aware of the self-narratives which format our perspectives and beliefs. We are what we believe. And to make our self-narratives more authentic and more committed and more expressive of our sacred commitment to ourselves, we need to be more conscious of the choices that we make and the consequences of our actions. And we're learning to be more compassionate, Pisces, with others and with ourselves and others, to accept others as they are, and to understand that they're just like us, hiking along their own evolutionary path. The sun is in Capricorn. And it applies to a disseminating square to Eris. Venus is retrograde, applying to a balsamic conjunction to the sun. And Venus is also separating from a disseminating trine to Eris. And we have Juno separating from a new phase conjunction to the sun, and Juno applying to a disseminating square to Eris. And you can see that we have 3 disseminating phase aspects going on. The disseminating phase follows the opposition, the full phase opposition. In the disseminating phase, things need to be spread. Things need to be disseminated and actually shared. They're no longer just an idea. They're no longer just a probability. They're no longer just a potential. They have been actualized at the new moon, and at the full moon. And now, in the phase that follows the full moon, they now must be shared and spread out into the world. And all of these conditions are underscored by Saturn in Aquarius. Saturn is the ruler of Capricorn. We have Venus, Sun, and Juno in Capricorn, and Saturn conjunct Mercury in Aquarius. Saturn used to be the ruler of Aquarius before Uranus was discovered. So Saturn is definitely a player. Saturn in Aquarius separates from a full phase biquintile to Eris. Mercury applies to a balsamic conjunction to Saturn, and Mercury in Aquarius applies to a full phase biquintile to Eris. So we've got 2 biquintiles here. Biquintiles are opportunities for individual creativity. They're opportunities, though. They are something that needs to be seized. We have to be proactive with them. The Sun-Venus squares are a crisis in consciousness. It's a concept, a term that was coined by Dane Rudger. We have come 3/4 of the way around the cycle. We're at the last quarter, and this last quarter square is where we know what needs to be done. We have an awareness in our consciousness, but the crisis is that now we have to do it. It necessitates a commitment and a fidelity to the way we are expressing and actualizing our values and the priorities that are inherent in those values. That's Venus. And we have a rare opportunity now to realize and express something that is unique about ourselves, something that defines us as who we are, and to take responsibility for who we are and who we are becoming. And these are the biquintiles. Mars in Sagittarius, relative to Jupiter in Pisces, which is the ruler of Sag and the dispositor of Mars, also applies to a disseminating trine to Eris. The choices that we make speak to our truth about ourselves. The collective experiences that we are sharing are asking for our personal truths to correlate to universal truths. There's a difference. We can believe something that's true, but that doesn't make it true. There are universal truths that are true at any time, at any place. We can no longer look just out for ourselves. The time of the lone wolf is past. That's what the Hopis had said all those years ago. We must begin to recognize our connection to the world around us and act accordingly. Neptune in Pisces applies to a balsamic semi-sextile to Eris. Intuition is not something that is woo-woo or reserved for only certain gifted souls. Each of us has that same capacity to hear our inner voice and respond in a positive way to messages that we have received. These messages may at times seem irrational or far out in left field or undoable or simply too challenging. Those thoughts and ideas are simply from our rational mind, seeking its own familiar space of safety and security. That's our moon, our fourth house, or anything we have in Cancer. We want to stay the same because it's safe. Let your ideas be daring and perhaps disruptive to the normalcy that we take for granted. Normalcy is not all that it is cracked up to be. Pluto in Capricorn separates from a last quarter square to Eris. And I have been speaking about this for years now. This is what has underscored our time. It has brought us COVID. It has brought us Donald Trump. I won't go into it because there's already so much that you can read and listen to about Reddit, hear the full story. But it is the undercurrent of our time, and it is very active in this chart. This event has not occurred since the axial age when saints and masters walked on the planet. It refers back to the 700 BCE, Homer, Buddha, Confucius, Lao Tzu, Archimedes, Pythagoras. They were all on the planet. The great thought streams of Western civilization emerged at that time. This aspect holds the Homeric mythos that permeates all of human experience. It refers to the teachings from all the saints and masters who have walked on the planet in its entire history. And all those messages tell the same story, that love is the glue that binds the universe. Eros, there are two Eroses. There was the Eros that was the child of Venus, that we all know as the little cherub with the arrow. And then there was the Eros that was the primordial God at the beginning of creation that represents the energy that binds us all together, and it's love. We are like a flock of birds flying intricate maneuvers, like a single forest of quaking aspens whose underground roots are all connected, like a swarm of bees migrating to a new home. There's only one of us on the planet. The lunar south node is the composite of our previous moons, our previous emotional natures, our egocentric structures, that which we felt we needed to keep us safe, is in Gemini, and it forms a partile full phase, another biquintile to Eris. So neither the future nor the past are written in stone. We can reimage, we can reimagine the past, and we can invent and choose any of the several probable futures. The future is not written in stone. It's not a certain thing. It has probabilities of what can occur based on what we do in the present. But our choices in the present determine what the future will be. There's more than one future out there. It's kind of like a train coming into a roundhouse, and it can turn in several different directions. We choose which way we're going to go. The universe is mental. It's the first Hermetic principle. We travel at the speed of thought. Eris is the alchemical process that polishes the lichen-laden rock into a philosopher's stone. She's the curator that edits out what has passed its expiration date. She's the focused magnifying glass that sets the leaf on fire. She only destroys what needs to be destroyed. She only strips naked what we are not seeing. In future talks, I will be exploring the astrology, astronomy, and mythology of Eris. Every one of us currently on the planet was born with Eris and Aries. She's been there since 1927, unless you know somebody older than that. Over the next 12 months, I will be examining the dynamics of Eris through the houses and in aspects to other planets. I've just published this year's annual forecast for 2022. It's on Amazon. I also have paperback copies that I'm happy to ship out for free. It's a comprehensive month-to-month calendar evolutionary forecast for 2022. What are the major planetary influences? What are the planetary influences of the past that have led up to this year? What can we expect regarding COVID? What can we expect going forward in general? And how can we safely navigate the time we are passing through? Because we are safe. We will get through this, but we need some tools. The report details the major planetary aspect for the planets and asteroids. No astronauts, just asteroids. Eris, the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction, the Taurus-Scorpio nodal ingress, the skipped step squares to the lunar nodes from Jupiter, Saturn, and Vesta, Uranus, Hygiea, and Ceres conjunct the lunar nodes, the Taurus and Scorpio eclipses, Venus retrograde, which occurs in which ends in a couple of weeks, but it's the ruler of the lunar north node. It's going to format the next 18 months. Mercury retrograde, the US Pluto and US Neptune opposition, which are occurring right now. I've also written a lot about them. I have another whole talk about it. It's in my forecast for the year with charts that refer to all the major events that are occurring. If you really want to know about it, just turn on the news. This is a live event, folks. This is how you can reach me. I do consultations that help you feel your passion and find your purpose. I do astrological weather reports, monthly, weekly, daily. I will probably be writing fewer of them this year, but I will still be out there doing important forecasts because I'm going to focus more on Eris. This is how you get in touch with me. I'd love to hear from you. If you enjoyed this, if it was useful, if it was meaningful, if you learned something from it, I'm here to read for you anytime. I'm booking into February. This is how you can find me. Namaste. Thank you all so much for being here.